Hello, good morning, and welcome. It is Tuesday, May the 6th, 2025. I'm Graham Hughes, and you're watching Morning Brew here on Politics Social. Big shout out to the chat. We've got Sonic Shadow there, we've got Veg Pie, we've got Joanna, we've got Graham Haller in there as well, Audrey White, Simon Smith, etc. If you'd like to join them in the chat, all you need to do is you press the subscribe button and wait for a minute, and then you'll be able to join in. Okay, so we're getting into it today. We're going to be talking about Israel. Sorry about the slight delay getting started there. I had a horrible moment because I normally set these things up like half an hour in advance. And then when I sit down here in my studio, I just click on the link to go. And the link wasn't there because I hadn't, on my laptop when I was setting it up this morning, I hadn't pressed the OK button, basically. So thank you to everyone who's made it here. I thought I'd leave it a couple of minutes before I started to get you all assembled. But welcome, one and all. So, Israel, Gaza, Palestine, shit. It's not looking good. Gaza is on the brink of full annexation by Israel. They're not making a secret of this in any way, shape, or form. Netanyahu and Smotrich are openly talking about conquering and permanently occupying Gaza. They've said they're going to go in and they're not coming out. The death toll already in Gaza is over 52,000 Palestinians have been killed since October the 7th, 2023. Majority of those people were women and children. So this planned operation, the name they've given it is Gideon's Chariot. And it's set to begin after Trump's visit next week, right? So Trump's not even supposed to be going to Israel. He's supposed to be going to, like, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE. He's not supposed to be going to Israel. So I don't know. I don't know what the logistics are going to be, but he's probably going to go to Jerusalem, isn't he, and declare it Israel's capital and all this kind of shit. But the other thing that's happening right now is that for the last 6 weeks, Israel's been blocking any kind of food, aid, humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. And this is causing famine, man-made famine, displacement and death. The reason why I wanted to talk about this morning, because, like, I understand that it just gets to a point where you're like, I can't take this in anymore because it's awful. It's ongoing awfulness. It's like the war in Ukraine. It was like the war in Syria for 10 years. It was too horrific, and it was every single day. And when you hear shocking headlines every single day about a particular subject, it becomes a little less shocking every time you hear it. And that's a horrible thing to say. And I wish it wasn't true, but it is. And Trump knows this. He does horrible things every day. And each horrible thing, each ludicrous thing, each performatively demonic thing that he does becomes slightly less bad than the thing that he did the day before. And this is the way that our human psyche works. But I thought that it was really on display like you wouldn't believe last night at the Met Gala. Okay, I want to talk about this because, you know, the global elite, the left, the pro-Palestinian celebrities, where have they gone? Where have they gone? Because this time last year they had the Met Gala. And there was a big protest against it. Does anyone remember? There was a protest. Boycott the Met, you know? Do you remember? Okay, let's go back to what's going on right now in Gaza. So this operation, Gideon's Chariot, has been approved unanimously by Netanyahu's security cabinet. Tens of thousands of Israeli reservists have been mobilized. The entire population of Gaza, which is 2.3 million people, are set to be displaced back down to the south of the country again. And Netanyahu said we will remain in every area we capture. So they're not leaving. This is the annexation. This is happening. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see the full annexation of Gaza by Israel. The far-right minister, Smotrich, saying that annexation is on the table. You know, they're not even being coy about it. anymore. The US aid blockade is continuing. That's 6 weeks tonight. It's been 9 weeks. It's been 9 weeks of food and medicine not getting in. And the UN is calling it a looming man-made famine. And don't forget, some of the biggest famines that ever happened. Like, you think of the famines in the 20th century that happened. The Bengal famine, that was caused by the British stealing the food. The people didn't need to starve. The famine in Biafra in the 1960s, in Nigeria, that didn't have to happen. That was man-made. The famine in Ethiopia, that a lot of us remember, in the 1980s, that was man-made. That was a man-made famine. Yes, there was a drought. There was a drought, no doubt about it. But there was also a war. At the time, Ethiopia was at war with a province of Ethiopia, which is now known as Eritrea. So Eritrea was not really part of Ethiopia historically, but it was a bit. So it was part of Ethiopia historically, but during the age of colonialization, Eritrea was Italian, and Abyssinia, as it was then, Ethiopia, was the one place in the whole of Africa, all 54 countries of Africa, it was the one country that wasn't actually colonized by European forces. And so the history of the places were a little bit different from each other. Eritrea has a much higher Muslim population than Ethiopia, which is much more Coptic Christian, right? So this was the background to this famine, and we can talk about the Irish famine in the 1840s. That was man-made as well. That was completely man-made. The British were taking food from Ireland. They were exporting food out of Ireland while people starved. Nearly always when these famines happen and people die, there's always something else behind it. It's not just the case that the crops didn't work that year, because these are big countries, you know. Even Ireland is a pretty big country, you know. There's just because one crop isn't working somewhere, there's other crops that you can grow that are being grown. But yeah, we're not going to go down that particular rabbit hole right now. Let's just talk about Gaza. 85% of Gazans are already internally displaced, and you know, the estimate for the number of children who have been killed so far in Gaza is 23,000. And you know, the number of aid trucks that need to get into Gaza for the population, which is 2.3 million, is 500 trucks a day. And since since the start of April, we've been seeing 3 trucks a day getting in. They need 500, 3 have been getting in. Meanwhile, 133 hostages, or the remains of hostages, are still being held by Hamas. Just a quick thank you to Captain Coconut. Israel has become the very thing they despised. Yeah, Captain Coconut. I can't disagree with that. So, you know, how did we get here? Well, in October the 7th, 2023, Hamas triggered this Israeli invasion. Between December 2023 and February 2024, there were ceasefire periods, but this famine sort of began in North Gaza. People got pushed from North Gaza down into the south. And in April 2024, Israel was bombing the Rafah border, which was halting most of the aid coming in. And people were quite rightly kicking off. A year ago today, there were mass protests, not just in America, but all over the world. But the American ones are more interesting for what I'm talking about today, because they're nowhere to be found now. Now that it's not an election year, now that you can't call him Genocidal Joe anymore, to Joe Biden, where's everyone gone? So people were saying, yeah, Trump is bad, but nowhere near as bad as a continued Biden or subsequently Harris administration for the people of Gaza. And I always looked at this going, what are these people on? Like, do they not know what Trump's going to do? They're going to raise the whole bloody area, the whole country the whole area of Gaza, the Gaza Strip is going to be bulldozed to the ground under Trump. At least, you know, you might think it was performative. You might not trust them, but at least Biden and Harris would have, well, they did try to push for peace. But the problem was, the American system of government, or the American system of government, that's a bad way of putting it, the way the American government's set up, it's always been, since day one, the biggest supporter of Israel on the planet. And so Biden inherited this mentality, this way that things were done. And he knew that if he wanted to get, say, aid through both houses of Congress to Ukraine, he would have to sandwich it between aid for Israel, which no one was going to find particularly contentious. But like, how could they not know that Trump was going to be, it was going to be horrific? Like, Trump was the guy who, in his first administration, declared that Jerusalem was the capital of Israel. Now, this is a really contentious topic in Israel and around the world, because Jerusalem is half Palestinian. And so they didn't want that to be the capital. Obviously, the hardline Israelis did, but the Palestinians certainly didn't want that to be the capital of Israel. And that's why the capital of Israel is recognized by many countries as Tel Aviv. But Trump decided to make it Jerusalem, which inflamed tensions. And he's also recognized Hebron as Israeli territory, which was part of Syria. US has the UN reports into what's going on have been ignored by the US State Department. I mean, look, we can talk about the EU, the tepid response from the EU and the UK, but that's a separate topic to what I'm talking about today. And the Arab world is divided about this. Saudi and the UAE are too focused on making money. Iran is backing Hamas as it backed Hezbollah. But, I mean, I don't know if the heart's in it. I think they see it as a kind of like, not as an existential threat to Iran. They see it as a nice to have. They see it as okay, well, we can fund this Houthi insurgency in Yemen. We can fund the Hezbollah in Lebanon. We can fund Hamas in Palestine. But we'll just do that a bit on the side just to annoy our enemies. And then now we're in a situation where things are worse than they've ever been for the people of Gaza. In the whole history of this sorry affair in the Middle East, this is the crunch point. This is really, really bad right now. Really bad. And yet in 2024, we had hashtag blockout 2024. This is when celebrities, they wore pins, they posted black squares as their avatars. The Oscars in 2024, we had artists for ceasefire, we had Palestinian flag badges. In the Met Gala in 2024, there was a huge public backlash against people swanning around in these costumes, in these fancy costumes, while this genocide was raging. TikToker influencers were like, lip syncing to Let Them Eat Cake while as Gaza was starving, and the backlash against the celebrities who weren't doing enough to fight against Gaza was quite big. I mean, they reckon Taylor Swift lost she lost 300,000 followers as a result of this. But in 2025, nothing. Crickets. The Met Gala went off last night. There was no stories that I saw about any kind of protests or anyone wearing a protest. I might have missed it. Fill me in case I missed it, because I'm not massive into fashion. That's kind of cool, But like, there was not there was no protest as far as I could see. There wasn't a single watermelon clutch bag. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was notable silence from artists for ceasefire, and even sort of previous vocal leftists who were talking about Gaza have all gone deathly quiet. And this sort of digital guillotine that we had built last year seems to become like collective amnesia. Like, we've all forgotten what was happening or what is happening right now. And, the People marched against this just a year ago. Where have they gone? Where have they gone? I don't get it. And last night at the Met Gala, lavish outfits were all the rage, as they are. But there were zero statements on Gaza. This is the event where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a couple of years ago, she wore. Remember that dress that said "Tax the Rich"? Yeah, do you remember that? That was her. That was at the Met Gala. It's an opportunity to make a statement, to make a protest, and the what does it mean if I don't accuse necessarily. I'm not accusing people on the left of hypocrisy because I know there's a lot to take in, and I know that we only have a certain amount of milk of human kindness. After a point, it runs a bit dry when we see the same horrific images day in, day out, and there's fuck all we can do about it. I do get that. But I'm not talking about necessarily you and me in this. I'm talking more about the people who have some sway, some power, some money, some capital, some organizational skills to put this shit together. They actually live in America. That helps. Where are they? Where's the consistency? I don't want to call it as hypocrisy because it was good that they made a point in the first place. But who did it help? Did it help the people of Gaza? No, I don't think it did. I think it helped Trump win. That's what I think it did. Because Kamala Harris didn't lose because Trump was so amazing. He only got about the same number of votes as he did last time. She lost because people stayed at home. People didn't vote for her. There was a big movement against her because of her stance on Israel, completely ignoring the even worse stance on Israel and Gaza espoused by Donald Trump. And yeah, brand partnerships, they silence dissent. I think that Trump scares people. When you've got people getting deported out of the country because they wrote an op-ed in their local student newspaper saying it was, what Israel's doing is wrong, which it is, calling Netanyahu a war criminal, which he is. And these actors, these stars of the stage and screen and singers, they've all got contracts with their record companies, with Disney Plus, Warner Brothers, Netflix. And those studios don't want them making a fuss. So they're clearly being muffled. And then yesterday we had Trump saying he's going to put a 100% tariff on films not made in America, which is completely bonkers and unworkable, as we spoke about yesterday. But these people are clearly scared. They've been terrorized into silence. And yeah, I just feel like this is, risk aversion, PR cowardice, not wanting to upset the apple cart. I think there's a huge thing about not wanting to be cancelled, which is somewhat ironic, considering the people who whinged about being cancelled the most are the people who are all over the fucking telly right now. All over the screens, all over the internet, all over our phones. The people who whinged about, I've been cancelled just because I said this, I can cancel me. I think the real cancellation here is the left. Where are we? So yeah, it's a grim reality that we're in right now. It's just really sad. I'm going to jump into the comments right now, see what people have got to say. It's a bit grim. I'm off. Needs to stay happy today. Toodles horse says plumbed off. Fair enough, absolutely. And I've put the number for the Samaritans in the bottom of this one. I know when I talk about Israel, it has that effect because it has that effect on me, to be honest with you. It's so grim what they're doing in Israel, in Gaza. And it's that feeling that there's not much we can do, which makes it worse. Yeah, it was shit when the Tories were in, but at least we felt there was something we can do. It was shit when we voted for Brexit, but at least it felt like there was something we can do. In this, what can we do? What is there that we can actually change ourselves? I mean, we can talk about how we could possibly right to your MP, write your MP. It feels a bit, you know, futile at the moment. But you know, if you've got a functioning moral compass, which I assume most of the people watching this do have, you know, I think we've got to get to the point now where we don't wait for celebrities to say anything or do anything so we can sort of, you know, hitch a ride to them. I think we've got to do it ourselves. You know, the politicians. I mean, what can we do? We can boycott brands. They're talking about there's a piece of legislation that's going through the House of Representatives. I think it'll die in the Senate, thankfully, but it wants to give like 20-year jail sentences and fines of $1 million to people for boycotting Israeli goods and services. What? What? In America? This is real. This is something that they want to try and get through. I really doubt it'll get through the Senate. But like, oh my God. This is genocide that's going on. And we're closing it seems to be getting very close to the end game now. And we need to not just, I guess, I do what we can in our limited capacity, but we also need to be kicking up a stink. And when, you know, these people who were very, very vocal about Gaza last year, message them, ask them where they've gone on this matter. Were they just helping Donald Trump get elected, or did they actually mean it? You know, where's the follow through on this? Or did they just do it to get more followers, more subscribers by doing the easy thing? And now that you know, it's not getting them as many subscribers anymore, they're not talking about it. I don't know. But if you could do one thing today, maybe have a look on Blue Sky or Threads or whatever social media you use apart from, or even this on YouTube. Have a look for some pro-Palestinian voices, journalists, doctors, human rights organizations, human rights workers, and follow them. Just give them a subscribe. Give them a little boost there. It doesn't cost anything. And yeah, the last thing I always seem to end up saying is write to your MP. I'm meeting up with my MP soon. I might even do an interview with her, maybe for you in Durham here, for this channel to talk about where Labour's gone horribly wrong. And I think you'll be surprised at some of the things that she might say about that. I think she might be more in the in our view on this than you might have expected. And yeah, it's I'm looking at your messages here, and it's, you know, Stevie H. Interesting how Escape from Alcatraz was shown on TV in his local Florida station this Saturday. Sunday, he wakes up talking about reopening Alcatraz. Now we know how to plant ideas. Yeah. Scott saying the Overton windows move so far right now. We expect less from the left and accept more from the right. Yeah, we need to stop this. Tommy says, yeah, that custom-made dress AOC wore, that would have, you have to be rich to afford. She could have come out in a plain white t-shirt and wrote tax the rich in Sharpie. I don't think she probably paid for it. I don't know. Audrey says, Graham, I think it's fear. It was safe to protest under Biden, not Trump. Yeah, Audrey, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I hate this. I absolutely hate this. I hate the fact that voices are being silenced because they're dissenting. And Trump is now talking about he wants to have like two days to celebrate two different wars. So he's going to have VE Day in America is now like Victory in World War II Day on May the 8th and November the 11th, which I don't think they really celebrated it in America, but they had like Veterans Day, which is slightly different. But that's going to be Victory in World War One Day, and he wants a military parade on his birthday. You know, like what they have in like North Korea and Soviet Russia or current Russia, military parade. You know, where they put the rockets on the low loaders and drive them past the presidential palace. He wants to do that. He is a tin pot 20th century dictator in charge of America. And it's awful. It's fucking awful. Max 7, Trump's tariffs are more about punishing US consumers. It's a libertarian revenue concept. See how government cut taxes but increase fees and fines in Ferguson, Missouri. Yeah. Guaranteed this weekend felt like January the 6th. Yeah. If you write to your MP, it's a public record and can be read out in court. That's from Alan Hass. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Substack is a good website where you can message people directly. That's true. Reverend Caffey says, I've emailed my MP a few times since last summer. I get back and copy and paste response from his sidekick parroting head office policy. Getting so I can't be bothered anymore. Keep going. Just keep. I know it may seem fruitless, but look, just get your AI helper to write the fucking message for you so you don't have to waste too much time on it. Well, please do it. Please do it. Max says, fuck Trump. VE Day is always something we share with European allies. Yeah. He just wants... He wants the trappings of office, you know. He wants the golden gilded statues. He wants all the tacky, tasteless shite that he thinks looks good. You know, like I say, like a tin pot developing nation fucking dictator. This is what he is. He absolutely, you know, when you see these fucking arseholes who take over an African country and they have all of their military badges on, that's what he wants. You know, they come off to the edge here. That's what he wants. He wants to dress up like Benito Mussolini. He wants to be the big I am. That's the thing that motivates Trump. It's not decency. It's not honor. It's not even getting fucking deals done. I mean, like, he says he's got 200 deals done. And then he sort of dialed back and he keeps saying, oh, we're going to have some deals done this week. He's been saying that for 3 weeks now. Every week for 3 weeks, he's been saying, oh, we're going to get deals done. He's not going to get the deals done. It's just bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit. And the markets are like, oh yeah, it's all right, he'll get some deals. I'm like, I really don't think he will. I really, really do not think he will. David Faulkner, thank you so much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. That's very kind of you. Happy Veshka. Today is Fat Dan or Buddha's birthday. Israel has a right-wing government. Beware of right-wing extremism. It comes in many forms. Yeah, it absolutely does. Couldn't agree more. And happy birthday, Buddha. Gallifreyan Ren is saying, I'm going to follow Plum's example and make breakfast. Find something better for my mental health. Take care, peeps and peepettes. More than ever. Do something kind today. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. What do we do? Do we not talk about this because it's too depressing? Because, like, that's tempting for me because I don't want to upset you. I don't want to upset my audience. I don't want to put you in a bad mood for the rest of the day. Do you know what I mean? If I had my way, I'll just find the funniest things to talk about that's happened in the news and go, ha ha ha. But my point isn't, I guess, today to reiterate the shit that's going down in Gaza. I think the more point I want to make is, if anything, we need to, I guess, reinvigorate the left to fight back, give them the tools that they need to fight back against what's happening in Gaza, like just on the internet, getting people on side. Do you want some good news? Like most young people in America have more sympathy with the Palestinians than they do with the Israelis, which is a huge turnaround in recent years compared with what America used to be. It used to be in lockstep with whatever Israel was doing. In the Six-Day War in the 1960s and the Yom Kippur War, kids were praying, kids in American schools were praying for Israel. And now that doesn't happen. You're not supposed to pray in state schools anyway, but that's not the point. Finish the stream with a cute cat piggy. Yeah, it's depressing, yes, but sometimes you need to talk about it, says Tommy. I know. But even I find myself shying away from talking about this topic because I find it really, clearly I find it really upsetting, and I don't want to upset people watching this, so they stop watching and, go and find something else to do. I appreciate each and every one of you who watch these shows. There's only a small group of us. It's not like there's hundreds of thousands of people watching out there, and it matters to me, and I do like it when I see the same names coming up and people giving support to each other on these matters. Don't play any Trump videos, lol. Makes me want to vomit. Yeah, I don't. Graham, we do both cry, we laugh, we find kinship and friendship and solidarity. Oh, thanks, Scott. Banana Brain says, as much as it sucks to cover, these stories need to be covered and watched by everyone. Yeah, and I will return to this subject. I absolutely will over the coming weeks because we need to be pointing it out. That's the least we can do. I say this about history. It's why it upsets me so much. So my degree was in politics and modern history, and it's why, and for the purposes of the course, modern history means like fucking anything from the start of the British Empire onwards. So like the 1600s onwards was seen as modern history. And so, as a historian, I guess, it really, really, really upsets me to see the likes of Trump and the likes of the Heritage Foundation and that fucking bunch of scumbags in 55 Tufton Street trying to rewrite history, trying to go, oh no, slavery wasn't that bad, trying to stop the National Trust from writing, when you go to one of the National Trust properties and they have like a little thing explaining where things come from, not explaining that the entire stately home was built with the profits from slavery because they don't want you to know that. Rewriting history to me is as 1984 as it fucking gets because that's what they do in 1984. We've always been at war with East Asia. Every day the world wakes up and asks, is he? Yes. No one ever asks who we mean. Yeah. I know. Graham, your compassion while talking about these subjects shines through, and we do need to talk about these tough subjects, says SG. Oh, thank you very much. That's really kind of you to say. Tommy says, we can always talk about something else for a bit and come back to this topic. The choice is yours, Graham. Some of us will stick with the stream regardless of the topic. Yeah. Look, I'm not having a go at people who can't handle it. And I always say this on this channel, like if it's a really tough topic that we're talking about, do something else. Do something that, because your mental health comes first. It's as simple as that. And we can't help anybody else before we help ourselves in any given, emergency situation. The masks drop down, you put it on yourself before you put it on your kids because you have to. That's just the way it is. And you can't save someone else from drowning while you're drowning yourself. Pygmalion, thank you so much for the £10 super chat. It's really, really kind of you, Pygmalion. Thank you. Good morning, Graham. Good morning, Pygmalion. Is the 1776 project still a thing they're trying to do, or have the Conservatives moved on from that? Says Banana Brains. I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, they don't seem to give a shit about the Constitution. Trump was in an interview this weekend and he said he was asked about the Constitution and whether he has to abide by it, and he said, I don't know. That was his response. I don't know. Sometimes I used to wonder, if I was alive during the Holocaust, what would I have done? And now we know the answer. It's difficult. It's difficult to be in the situation that we're all in at the moment, where the amount of power and influence we have is minimal. And even the people with power and influence who are on the right side of history, aren't really getting anywhere, because I think there's a lot of people who just love the cruelty. They love the cruelty of it all. You look at J.K. Rowling, not for too long, she's a minger, but like she gets off on the cruelty. She gets some kind of sadistic sexual kick out of being horrible to people. She thinks she's won. She thinks she's won. She's sitting there with a cigar thinking that she's won, but she hasn't won. Because there'll always be trans people. She'll never win. One day there will be no J.K. Rowling. There'll still be trans people. That's why trans people will always win. Like trying to get rid of left-handed people or autistic people. That's what they're trying to do in the States at the moment with their new eugenics policy of we're going to find a cure. We're going to find a cure for autism by September. These like, it's going to be fucking fruit juice, isn't it? Absolute fucking madness. Totally off topic, says Joanna. Does anyone know that the IC is controlling on the display on the data sheet has no internet? What? Sorry, I missed. I'm not getting what? Audrey, sorry, I'll come back to that, Joanna. Audrey, bye everyone. Have a hard days off. We'll try and candle ear treatment to see if it helps with tinnitus. We'll catch up on the rest later. Oh, sorry, Audrey, to hear you got tinnitus. That's an awful thing to have. If I ever get it, I say to my partner, oh, I've got a bit of tinnitus today. And she sits there with like no sympathy whatsoever. She's like, Graham, I've had tinnitus all my life. She's deaf. She has tinnitus all the time. Christopher says the problem is Hug BB strategy ignores that he is the leader in the vein of Saddam Hussein or Putin. Yeah. He is. He's a and he's only doing all this to stay out of jail. This guy is wanted for so much corruption. It's absurd. He's also a wanted war criminal by the International Criminal Court. Like, this guy is target number one. The only way he can avoid going to jail, just like the only way Trump could avoid going to jail, is by staying leader, which he intends to do by crushing Gaza and solidifying his position amongst the hardline Israelis who want that to happen, and also get support from the crazed Americans, the apocalyptic cult, the death cult in America that want to bring on, the end days and the resurrection of the devil and Jesus and all our favorite characters from the Bible and on the plains of Mageddon or whatever. It's not good. It's not good. Hey, listen, should we have a look at the papers? We'll have a laugh at the papers, hopefully. Let's have a laugh at the papers for a little bit. Do you reckon the family's going to be on the front cover of the newspapers? Do you reckon? Oh, look, there they are. There's the family, because they've got to be on the front cover of the newspapers every day, woman and her child. Cool. Excellent. Visa curbs on nations set to hike asylum bill. Pakistan, Nigeria, and Sri Lanka face restrictions. The Home Office will restrict work and study applications from nationalities including Pakistanis, Nigerians, and Sri Lankans who are most likely to overstay and claim asylum. This is not the most important thing that we need to be dealing with right now. It really, really isn't. I find it quite tragic that is, what the Starmer administration thinks is what we're all calling for right now. Do you know how to cut the figures for the immigration figures? Just take the students off them and say you've cut them by a third. Do it. And Tories did it. The Tories did it with crime. They took a fraud out of the crime statistics, and they went, look, the crime's gone down. It hadn't. It's just the number of frauds had stopped because they didn't collect it. Well, they did, but they just didn't put it in with the national crime figures. And they went, look what we've done. Alistair Kerm, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, mate. Chat if you need help or talk to the Samaritans. Phone in the give the Samaritans a call. 116123. I've also given that number in the description as well. So thanks very much to Alistair for thinking of people there. If you need someone to talk to. So we've got the Daily Express here, backing Britain for 125 years. Yeah, if you say so. In the long years to come, not only will the people of this island, but also the world, wherever the bird of freedom chirps in human hearts, look back at what they say and done, what we have done, and they will say, do not despair. Well, that's nice. That's nice what Winston Churchill said, do not despair. So, let's not fall into despair. But at the same time, oh my God, I'm sick of seeing this family. Caption competition. I saw this picture on the BBC website yesterday. I thought they're going to use that on Have I Got Used for You for a caption competition, aren't they? I'm like, oh my God, it's like Boris Johnson's just fallen over. Or something. Trump survived. He's blocking out the sun. Number 10, to rethink fuel payment cut as local elections losses alarm MPs. Goods. Downing Street is rethinking its controversial winter fuel cut amid growing anxiety at the top of government that the policy could wreak serious electoral damage. It already has, dickheads. And also the attack on disabled people and the attack on trans people. British film industry at risk from US tariffs. Here is a story that I was going into yesterday. His threat on 100% tariffs. Do you know something fun about the top 10 movies in the box office? The top 10 box office movies of all time. Number 1 is Avatar. Number 2 is Avengers Endgame. Right, it goes down. Okay. 6 out of the 10 movies that have made the most money at the box office were filmed in Britain. So enjoy your tariffs, Trump, as we destroy your film industry. Well, I think that's what he wants because he doesn't like the film industry because it's woke. A day to remember. Nation unites for its heroes 80 years on. I mean, this is quite impressive. Probably not good for the environment, but there's the red arrows there. With some typhoon fighters as well. There's the family because you need pictures of them everywhere. And there's old people with their phone up. See this picture here? It looks AI generated to me. Doesn't it? I know it's not, but there you go. Thank you. VE Day, the nation offers honors its heroes. VE Day is actually on Thursday, but we're obviously having 4 days of celebrations because this is the last time that people who actually fought in World War II are probably going to be around at a major, landmark. If you were 18 in 1945, you'll be 98 now. So yeah, the chance of you being around in another 5 years are very slim. And this is Robert Hardman saying, from the palace balcony to the far end of the mall, from toddlers and to centenarians, people who are 100 years old. The message was as one, eternal gratitude to those who, in Winston Churchill's words, drew the sword against tyranny. Can we do that again, please? Can we do that again? George, thank you. George greets World War II veteran Charles Orban, who is 99 years old. Just like national treasure David Attenborough is going to be on Thursday as well. So Thursday's a double celebration. It's not just Victory in Europe Day. It's also David Attenborough's birthday. He's going to be 99. And he's got a new movie out. Oh my God. He doesn't stop. Daft Vader. In a country not far away, Trump turns into Daft Vader, then devours to open Alcatraz. Donald Trump posted a mock picture of himself with a lightsaber. Oh my God, what a tit. What an absolute arsehole. Okay, same picture again. A lean monarchy. That's not that funny. PM prepares for attack by Russia. Fears for national infrastructure as war plans updated to deal with cyber and nuclear attacks. Iranian plotting terror strike in UK has links to Tehran regime. Well, yeah, we knew that. Wasn't that the news yesterday? And Trump may send migrants to Rwanda hotels built by Britain. This is something that I think we mentioned yesterday on the old stateside. Yeah, you know those detention facilities that were built, hotels for asylum seekers, like Cami Badnoch. No, sorry, it was Cruella Braveman. Remember that picture of her? Was it Priti Patel went over? Who was it? Was it Braverman? Was it Priti Patel? Who was it who put their head back and was laughing like a fucking lunatic? I think it was Cruella. Might be misremembering. It was one of them. One of those Tory bastards going to Rwanda and then laughing at this camp that they built. But they hadn't built the camp. It was already there. And it was for traumatized survivors of the 1994 massacre in Rwanda, the genocide in which 800,000 people were slaughtered in the space of just a few weeks. When the Hutus when they attacked the Tutsis and these two tribes that had not really lived together because they were kind of smushed together by the Belgians when they ran the place, and then the French were there, and then the Dutch. I mean, the history of Rwanda is a particularly grim one, and this facility was being used for adults who were children during the genocide, and they were kicked out. They were kicked out by the British. They were kicked out. Would you believe it? David Smith, I wrote to David Lammy twice. I got a generic response when asking why he had not used the term ethnic cleansing yet. Zero moral character. I hope his complacency haunts him. Yeah, David, I agree. And I know it's difficult for politicians because diplomacy, right? And they can't just say what they want. But in another way, why not? Trump does. Farage does. They say whatever comes into their stupid little fucking smooth brains. And it's like, I think a lot of people unfortunately respect that. So why can't we do it on our side? Because I think people would respect it if people spoke frankly and without the language of trying to hide behind diplomacy in order to further things. Talk to your Israeli counterparts and say, look, you have a week to sort this out and do this, 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 and this. Open up the borders so that aid can get in. And if you don't, I'm gonna go on national TV in Britain and I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna call this a genocide. I'm gonna call it ethnic cleansing. I don't actually like the term ethnic cleansing. It sounds too sterile. It's like sterilized murder. Genocide is more apt. But yeah. I'm beginning to get the impression that the media are awfully fond of the royal family just a hunch. It's every fucking day, mate. Every day. One of them is on the front cover of the newspapers. I can't remember when I did the newspaper review and there hasn't been at least one picture of the family from number 42 up the road. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. It's just really, really, really weird. It is an obsession that borders on psychopathy. Like, why do you give a fuck? Why do you give so much of a damn about this family? I mean, you might see the Beckhams in the newspapers now and again, but it's just once in a blue moon. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, what the Beckhams doing? You might see the Kardashians or, some other family that we kind of follow in social media and on the legacy media. But my friends, like the obsession in this country with the royals, it's fucking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's just like everyone else is looking at us going, you all right? You all right, kidder? You all right, mate? You all right? AOC and Rashida Tlaib do. Yeah, you're right, Banana. They do speak their minds on it. Lions Led by Donkeys just did a podcast in the Rwanda genocide. Ordinary people were complicit. Yeah, absolutely. Captain Coconut, it's difficult to say anything where there'll be one idiot who'll stand up and call it out as anti-Semite, even if it was concerning how tasty the bread was this morning. Captain Coconut, I think that there are easy ways of avoiding being called an anti-Semite. And I've not had, and someone might decide to call me an anti-Semite now for saying this, but I've never been called an anti-Semite so far in my life by anyone serious for anything I've said critical of the Israeli government, and I've been critical of the Israeli government since the 1990s. So, it's not something that I've necessarily done a daily show about, but I've got a lot of friends who are Jewish, and I'll talk to them about the situation in Israel. And there's a way of talking about it which doesn't come across as anti-Semitic. And there's a way of talking about it which absolutely does come across as anti-Semitic. So a few ground rules that I stick to. You don't have to stick to these. I'm not going to dictate to you how you deal with this subject, and it is a highly emotive subject. Number one, never use the word Zionist. Just don't use it, because it doesn't mean what you think it means to the other person that you're talking to about it. It means a different thing to a Jewish person living in Israel. It means a different thing to a Jewish person living here. It means a different thing to a Muslim person living here. It means a different thing to a Palestinian. It means a lot, and it can be seen as a dog whistle. That's the issue. Just don't use it. Just do not use the Z word. Don't if you're going to refer to what Israel's doing, the Israeli government are doing, make sure that you differentiate and say it is the Israeli government or the IDF who are doing this horrible, horrible, horrible thing. Which is, something that we afford to most countries. I get shit because I'll slag off Russia. And then I'll get someone saying, oh, Graham, it's not everyone in Russia. And I've got Russian friends in Russia. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I mean the government, but it's... Yeah, I shouldn't conflate that. And so that's something I try and bear in mind to always say it's Putin, it's the Kremlin, it's Moscow. I don't mean everyone who lives in Moscow. And we do this with Americans as well. We go, fucking America's done this. America's interfering again. It's not. It's the American fucking government. It's not everyone in America who's doing this. And then there's when we're talking about Israel, there are certain words as well that I just try and avoid using because of the historical connotations. I'm happy to call Trump a Nazi because he fucking is, right? But Benjamin Netanyahu, although, yeah, I'll call him a fascist because I think he is. I'll call him a despot. I will accuse him of genocide, but I won't use the N word for him. The other N word. Oh my God, there's so many. I won't use that because of the historical connotations. And if you do use that word, I can see why some people will look at it and go, "Oh, right, okay, it's like that, is it?" And what upsets me about this whole thing is it makes people very reluctant to speak out against Israel's crimes, against the crimes of the Israeli government and the Israeli army, because they don't want to be branded anti-Semitic. And so I think that it's important that we talk about ways that we can get around this and say that what they're doing is wrong, while not making the people of Israel or people in this country who support Israel feeling like, that they're under attack. They're under attack. And some of you might think, well, they fucking should feel like they're under attack. What they're doing is completely wrong. And yeah, I get that. But here's the thing, right? I once did this is a complete tangent, and you're probably gonna just go, Graham, what the fuck are you talking about? But like, I've done a lot of interviews over the years, and many of them at the start of, when I was doing the Odyssey Around the World, I'd get someone write to me and say, would you answer these questions, like 10 questions? And I'll be like, oh, I don't really, because it means sitting down and like, right, I'd prefer to do a phone call or a Skype or something, or Zoom now. And they can record it and they can transcribe it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be writing it because it takes hours. It takes me hours. I'm a writer, it's one of my professions is writing stuff for a living. And I don't let stuff go if I'm not completely happy with it. And if someone asks me a question, how garrulous I am. Well, that translates to my writing as well. I will talk about stuff. Someone gives me says, what's your favorite country? I'm like, okay, here we go. Trying to explain that. We're like, well, I've probably got about, 47 of them, and they change every day depending on my mood. So here's all 47 of them and why they're all my favorite country. So I once did this interview, right? And I agreed to do it. It was for a German magazine or newspaper or something. And they sent me a list. The guy sent me 20 questions. And I remember doing this thing, and I had my laptop out, and I was on a cargo ship at the time, going from Mauritius, from Port Louis in Port Louis in Mauritius, over to Durban in South Africa. And I'm doing this thing, right? And I get to the 15th question, right? So I've probably spent about 90 minutes so far answering these questions one by one, meticulously, in detail, like I do. And I got to this, and it said, I think what you're doing is a waste of time because you're just passing through these countries. You're not really experiencing them. What do you think about that? And I was like, here's what I think about it, mate. Closed my laptop and just left it. Just, fuck off. Because he put me back up. I was trying to do something, to, obviously it's a bit of self-publicity, so it's good in that respect, but not, I'm doing this guy's job for him. He's not, that's to translate it into German, I guess. But, once it's written down, it's a lot easier than having to transcribe an actual conversation. So I'm doing half his job for no money. And then he says to me halfway through, I think what you're doing is a fucking waste of time. I said, at this point, I'd spent 3 years and 10 months on this fucking mad journey. Do you know what I mean? And someone says, oh, it's a waste of time. And it's a valid point, I guess. But it got my back up. And so I'd shut down. I didn't want to know what the rest of the questions were. I just went, I can't be arsed with this. And the same thing happens when we are aggressively anti-Israeli or anti-Israel. I shouldn't say Israeli. I should say anti-Israel. And stay with me on this, right? If you're talking to someone, especially someone in the Jewish community in this country, and your stance is that Israel shouldn't exist, they're just going to shut the laptop. That's it. They're just going to go, sorry, I can't even talk about this. Because you've got to understand how important Israel is to the Jewish psyche. It is the one place they can go when the shit comes down. I mean, it's a failed experiment as far as I'm concerned, because it's supposed to be the one place in the world where they can go where they feel safe. I don't think there's any Israelis feeling safe at the moment, with being attacked on 4 different fronts if you include what's left of Hezbollah. Like they're surrounded by enemies in the Middle East, in a place where people don't want them. But here's the thing: Israel exists, and to say I don't think it should exist, I think that to believe that Israel should be an entity is wrong, and then go on about the historical connotations, blah 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 blah. Right? You could say the same thing about Pakistan, which became a country around the same time, and it was a religious country based on the religion of Islam, separate to the so apparently secular state of India, specifically set up for people who wanted to be Muslim. Damn the people who lived there and weren't Muslim. 1 million people died in partition. 1 million people. We don't talk about this enough. It was a horrific, horrific time. It really, really was. And it happened at the same time that Israel was created. So if you've got a problem with Israel because you've got a problem with, places that are a religiously founded country, a country founded on a particular religion, rather than, I don't know, linguistic groups, cultural things, I don't know, anything else, anything but religion. Because there were loads of different religions living in Pakistan, what's now Pakistan at the time, and they moved out. Not all of them. You still got some groups of Christians living in Pakistan. I don't think there's any Jewish people living in Pakistan anymore. But this is the point. Like, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the borders that we have now are in place. They're in place, and they very rarely change. Yes, Eritrea might get independence from Ethiopia. East Timor might get independence from Indonesia. But generally speaking, the borders that were put down that were there when we were born are still there to this day. And we need an international organization, some kind of, I don't know, union of the countries. How could you put this? Some kind of like a United Nations, right? That says very, very loudly and clearly, these are the borders. You don't go out these borders. If you go out these borders, this gang of nations, this United Nations, come down on you like a ton of bricks. And that goes for you. If you are Hamas coming across the border into Israel to attack it, if you're Israel going over the border into Gaza to raise cities to the ground, if you are Russia going into Ukraine to raise cities to the ground, no, not going to happen. Because what happens is that if you see these countries and the lines, the demarcation, the borders are not respected, you're just opening up a fucking almighty can of worms. That means that these border skirmishes, these border disputes that bleed over into outright war are going to continue. One of the scary things that happened last year was that the people of Venezuela, who live under a tyrannical dictatorship of Maduro, who starves his own people and has the most horrific punishments for anyone who dissents against him. They had a referendum whether they should invade their neighbor Guyana and annex 2/3 of Guyana's. Did I say Guyana? Guyana. 2/3 of Guyana's territory. I mean, who has a referendum about something like that? Oh, these lines, they've been here for generations, but we're gonna move them. Friends, like Guyana drives on the left. They play cricket. They speak English. They're not Hispanic. They don't have a link to Simon Bolivar. It's got nothing to do with them. They're not even the same heritage. A lot of people who come from Guyana are African Indian heritage. Just been put there by the British. People in Venezuela aren't. There's no cultural, linguistic, there's no excuse at all for what Venezuela want to do. There's no justification except that Guyana found oil. Guyana found oil and went, yeah, we'll have that. And Venezuela's looking next door. Venezuela's got the biggest reserves of oil in the world. I found in Venezuela, off the coast of Venezuela. And they're like, no, it's not enough. Just like you madman in fucking the Kremlin, Putin, right? Biggest country in the world, Russia. Biggest country in the world. Looks even bigger on the Mercator projection, but it is the biggest country in the world. And it's not big enough for him. He needs to take chunks of Georgia. He needs to annex 1/5 of Ukraine. Yeah. One angry pagan, in the blackest moment of a dying world, what have you become? The vengeful one, disturbed. What we are seeing is hate recycled, fueled by fear and greed. I agree. But also I think there's apathy as well, because there's so much going on in the world we overload. And it's like I said earlier, we only have so much milk of human kindness. We only have so much empathy to give before the edge is taken off things. The shocking becomes a little less shocking every day. Stuff that a year ago, 2 years ago would have shocked you to the core. Now it's Tuesday. Christopher Bowles, modern sensibilities, we are critical of that too. But the sins of the past are no place in justifying tomorrow's crimes. I couldn't agree more, Christopher. And the worst thing that happens in these negotiations, anywhere in the world, is you did this, but you did this, but you did this, but you did this. And when asked whose side you are on between Palestine and Israel, the correct answer, actually, is peace. That's it. What do you want? I want peace. I want people not to fucking die. That's what I want. Okay? Not on the side of Israel. I'm not on the side of Palestine. I just want peace. And do you know what? I would much rather, 100% much rather, in protests against Israel, you currently see Palestinian flags. In protests against Palestine, you see Israeli flags. I'd rather see white flags. I would rather see white flags for peace. I suppose white flags surrender, but, maybe a white flag with a dove on it. Whatever the peace symbol is. CND. Peace symbol. I'd rather see peace symbols. Wouldn't you? I think that'd be more effective as well. Because you can't exactly accuse someone of being anti-Semitic for saying they want peace. But the way you get peace isn't by capitulating to the bullies. Which is, weirdly, some people on the hard left, right? I call them the hard left. They're not really. But whatever, wherever they are. The people who really, really, really have a problem with Israel existing, right? And they're like, Israel shouldn't be doing this. It shouldn't be bullying its neighbor. It's really powerful. It's got nuclear weapons and it's got loads of money and its neighbor's got fuck all. And it's really horrible that they're doing this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Do you want to stop this by giving Israel everything they want? Do you want to stop this conflict by any means necessary? Do you want the Gazan people to, Hamas, just to lay down their arms and allow the Israelis to roll in and just raise the entire place to the ground and build a Trump casino? Is that what you... No. Well, how come that's what you want for Ukraine? The same people who are saying that Ukraine shouldn't fight back against Russia, who are making excuses for why Russia invaded Ukraine. And you know who they are. You know damn well who they are. These people who can have this sort of, cognitive dissonance in their head of like, yeah, what Israel's doing is wrong, bullying that smaller place, but what Russia's doing is okay. Like, how can you have those two ideas in your head at the same time? It's both imperialism. They're both causing genocide. They're both invading someone else's country and trying to take it over for nefarious means. And the slaughter of countless civilians goes along with that. It is an interesting thing, and that's why I feel like some people who are purportedly pro-Palestinian and go on these marches, I think, A, they find it politically convenient, and B, I think that they might be a little bit anti-Semitic. Because otherwise they'll be consistent. They would say what Russia is doing is wrong. They wouldn't be saying, hey, what we need in Ukraine is for everyone is for the Ukrainians just to lay down their weapons. You know, we need peace. They need to lay down their weapons. You don't get peace through that. Especially when you're being invaded. You get peace by sitting down and negotiating. That's how all peace treaties are ever sorted out. By sitting down and having that conversation. And Israel at the moment has the power over Palestine to say whatever it fuck it wants, and put Palestine in a position and say, right, we need to do this, this and this. But there's elements within the Israeli government that don't want peace. They don't want Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip. They want to get rid of them all. Like Trump said he wants to get rid of them all. Remember a couple of months ago? Remember when that was shocking? So yeah. Anyway, I'll go back to the papers for a moment because I've gone a little bit over time, but it's fine. Thousands of jobs at risk as Trump threatens 100% tariff on UK film and TV industry. 2/3 of the British film sector will be affected by US president's plan to introduce 100% tariffs on films produced in other countries. I don't even know how they're going to do this. This is just, he's such an idiot. Military up the top, why UK defence firms want to make more weapons for Britain in Ukraine. That's quite interesting. And then the most toxic navigation relationships and how to navigate them. Monsters in law. Di, thank you so much for the super chat, Di. With apologies to Mel Brooks, Netanyahu wants peace, a big piece of Gaza, a big piece of the West Bank. Yeah, you're right. Thank you very much for the super chat. And one is occupation, one is invasion, says Leanne Scott. They're both occupation. They're both invasion. They're both. In both cases, Russia has invaded its neighbor and is occupying it. And with Israel, they've invaded their neighbor, and what it looks like now, they're going to annex it. They're going to occupy it. They're going to push all the people who are currently in North Gaza. They're going to push them all down to the south, and they're going to annex it. Yeah, so it's all a bit grim. Can I just go back to this story in the Daily Telegraph that I read about the PM preparing for attack by Russia, fears for national infrastructure as war plans updated to deal with cyber and nuclear threats. Britain is secretly preparing for direct military attack by Russia amid fears that the country is not ready for war. And all those scumbags in the Tory party, those fascist enablers in the Tory party, they got us to this point. Absolute mother effers. Right, the family are on the front cover here. We've got the king and the queen and the kids and the blah, blah, blah. Really cool shot there, actually, of the red arrows going past. But there you go. VE-Day celebrations. And the Financial Times here. Gaza despair. Israel readies new onslaught. Palestinians snatch bread distributed by a charity kitchen at a refugee camp in central Gaza yesterday. God, that's a really grim picture. There's a small child there, just reaching out for food. Israel has cut off supplies of food, fuel, medicine, and aid to Gaza's 2.1 million population, exacerbating hunger and malnutrition in the territory. A man-made famine. So we talked about that enough today, I think. Let's move on. Macron condemns Trump's assault on universities as Europe laws scientists. Do it. Law those scientists. Bring them over. Let's science the shit out of this continent. French leader speaks out. US democracy at risk. 500 million euro EU package. A bid to reverse brain drain. Yeah, let's do it. Emmanuel Macron has warned that Donald Trump's assault on US scientific research threatens America's economy and democracy, as Ursula von der Leyen hailed open and free science in Europe as part of a pitch by the two leaders to lure global talent to the continent. Come on! Bring one, bring all. US threat of 100% levy on foreign films spreads alert to services-led economies because, yes, films are as part of the service industry, which traditionally haven't been hit by tariffs. Now Trump wants to put tariffs on them. 100% tariffs. 100%. Cyberscape City. Reviving the 1956 precedent can help in multiple places and set precedents going forward that Security Council veto can be abused. Yeah. As I mentioned, this says the hour goes too quickly. It does, doesn't it? Like, I look at them, it's past 10 o'clock, and I'm like, bloody hell, barely started. But yeah, we were talking about this, the Security Council, the 5 permanent members. So there's other members that changes, right? But the 5 permanent members are the UK and France. But then it's America, and they're never going to do anything against capitalism. Then you've got China, who are never going to do anything for democracy. And then you've got Russia, who are never going to do anything to stop corruption. So anything that the UN needs to do, like, curb the excesses of capitalism, or give democracy to countries around the world, or, I don't know, stop corruption, get transparency in government around the world. It's strangled at birth. Like, it just doesn't stand a chance because those countries are always going to block it. They have an absolute veto. There's 193 members of the UN, and 192 of them can vote to condemn Russian action in Ukraine. And Russia goes, no. One country alone can veto it. I think that the UN needs a restructuring. And I up till now, I didn't think they could actually be done. But after whatever's left from the carnage that Trump rains down on what we used to call America, I think there's an opportunity there to restructure it in a way that benefits countries instead of locking them into a cycle of dictatorship and famine and genocide and war, which at the moment I think the UN does. The UN, it infers immunity, prosecutional immunity to anyone who's the leader of a country. So where's the incentive to ever step down? Where's the incentive to not change the constitution and get rid of the 2-term limit and stay on as El Presidente until you die? You know what I mean? Tarason Films, meanwhile, in his Spectre layer in Mar-a-Lago, Goldminger makes his plans gold. Minger! He's the man who mings of gold. Scott says, thank you all for the compliment. I think even things been crap, you're a boost. Appreciated. Oh, thank you, Scott. You're a boost as well, mate. Thank you very much for that. Richie Goss says, morning all. After a few days in a magical forest, back to see the little girl grabbing food. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. I don't know, like, if I should just do like a advisory on these shows, because I try my best to try and keep it like light and somewhat entertaining and have a bit of banter, but some topics are just, I don't know, it's beyond satire. The thing is, we can laugh at Trump, we can laugh at how stupid he is and how thick he is and how ugly he is, but at the end of the day, his presence in the White House has real world implications for people all over the globe. The UN needs major reform, but I struggle to see how it can be done. Ori, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think it needs major reform. And I think that now would be a good time to put forward ideas for that reform, because I think, look, if NATO goes the way we think NATO is going to go and completely restructures as the European Defence Alliance without America, and maybe expands to pick up not just Canada, which it has already, but also Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, other countries that might want to get involved in NATO to curb Chinese ambitions on the other side of the world. I can see the UN maybe being ripe for restructuring, and the way I would do it is this. And you can disagree with me, and we can have a very long and interesting conversation about this. But I thought about this a lot while I was traveling, and I thought that it was wrong that the number of votes in the UN, that the tiny little micronation of Nauru, population 8,000 people, right? The number of votes they get in the UN is equal to that of India with 1.4 billion people. They both get one vote. I think that's wrong. That doesn't seem democratic to me. Doesn't seem fair. Doesn't seem right. But at the same time, I don't want to give China and India shitloads of votes in the UN just because they're disproportionately bigger than other countries. But what I would like to see is a system in which you can get you get there's like 10 votes up for grabs depending on the size of your country.
So Nauru gets 1 vote, China gets 10, India gets 10, right? But then there's another 10 votes you can get, maybe more, on top of that. And they are based on your ranking in the world in different metrics. And the metrics are stuff like freedom of the press, freedom of religion, the transparent government, lack of corruption, scoring high on the democracy index. Are the people in your country happy? Great, they are? Cool. You get an extra vote. And that would push countries to become better. Because if you're Nigeria and you've got like 8, 9 votes to start with because it's a big country, and you want more votes so you can have more of a say, the way towards that is by being less corrupt. At the moment, a country being less corrupt is like someone who's dodging their taxes. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is not, right? We give awards, we give prizes for people who are canny enough to find the loopholes so they don't have to pay tax. What are the prizes? Huge cash prizes. £1 million that they otherwise would have had to pay in tax. They don't have to pay it in tax. They've just made £1 million extra than they should have done. That's a hell of an incentive. That's a hell of a reward. And where's the punishment for doing that? There is none. You don't get put in jail. It's not that it's a legal tax loophole. And we have the same situation in countries like Nigeria, where what's the point of not being corrupt? What's it going to get us? If we're corrupt, no harm done to us. It's not like we could have more power and more say on what happens in our country, in our continent. Doesn't make any difference. They can be as corrupt as fuck. They get 1 vote. They can be as clean as a fucking, badger's arse, and they get 1 vote. I don't know if badger's arse are particularly clean. I think they're rough. What's very clean? A whistle. They can be as clean as a whistle, and they'll still get 1 vote. Where's the incentive to make countries more democratic? Where's the incentive to not throw political opponents in jail? Where's the incentive to not be corrupt? You get 1 vote, that's it. And that vote could be ignored by one of the most corrupt, dictatorial, tyrannical regimes on earth, i.e. Moscow, Russia. So yeah, that's how I would do it. And yes, it would be complex, but not that complex. There's only 193 countries. I mean, this isn't rocket science. And you'll balance it. You'll balance it well so that if all of the continents of the world book their ideas up and got better at doing everything, they'll get more votes. They'll get more of a say in the UN. So Africa would get just as much of a say as Europe. So the 54 countries of Africa would have just as much of a say as the 45 countries of Europe. Not 50 countries, because I had a few, but, let's say 50 countries of Europe. Why not? The same amount of votes as the 50 countries of Asia. Just as much as a vote as the 35 countries of the Americas. Why not? If they all work together, they get the same amount of votes. And then things could actually change. And change it so you have majorities and supermajorities for getting stuff done. At the moment, it doesn't matter if you have a consensus of 99% of the voting countries, because Russia can veto it. End that. That has got to end. And then things can change within the UN, i.e. COP. Really good example. Because COP was infiltrated by the Saudi Arabians in the 1990s, one of the things that they put in place was that it wasn't going to be a democratic system where if over 50% of the countries attending wanted to do something, it got done. No, it had to be consensual, right? A consensus, not consensual. It had to be a consensus, i.e. 100% of the countries needed to agree for anything to be done, for any kind of mission statement even. 100%. Get 193 people in a room and see if you can get them to agree on anything. Anything. Yeah, good luck with that. But with restructuring of the UN entire, you could restructure the committee of parties, and make it a majority vote. Even a super majority vote, if you want to be clever about it and say, well, we need the vast support of countries. Yeah, do it. And have it weighted, so that countries with, countries with a lot of oil don't necessarily get more of a say than countries without a lot of oil. It just happens at the moment. Well, I mean, they all get one vote at the moment, but they don't. That certain countries have more sway than others. The veto in the UN has to go, says Alan. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Nigeria's not too bad. I'm talking to a Nigerian prince at the moment, says Tommy Lee. He says he's going to make me rich. Sounds good. Cyberscape City says this is something unfortunate about the veto power on the Security Council. The veto power has domestic corruption, and that veto is basically full sale to the highest bidder. Yeah, that's why it's got to end. Graham's international social score has approval of Chi Awards. Graham with plus 35 social score. Well done. Thank you very much, Captain Coconut. Oliver, me too. Mine invaded paying tax. Fine mess. IRS, blame me. I had no idea. Nasty business. Sorry to hear that, Pete's music. It's it's painful when you don't owe any tax or you owe a small amount of tax and you get tripped up and you end up having to pay a fine and X amount. These rich fuckers get away with paying nothing. When Starbucks gets away with paying no corporate tax in this country. Paul Ewan says, a Nigerian prince died recently, left behind billions. Seems he tried to give it away, but no one replied to his emails. I'm glad we can bring some levity to the conversation at the end here. Listen, I'm going to head off now. Thanks so much for watching this morning. That's been a tough show, and we're gonna continue to watch what's happening in Israel, and we'll cover a little bit of this topic tonight in Geoscope with me and Ollie Bowler Hatman at 7:30. So please join us for that. We will be covering other topics from around the world as well. We'll try not to be talking about Trump too much. I'm sick of talking about him. I'm sick of fucking hearing about him. I'm sick of seeing his stupid, mashed bollock of a face. And I just, if I had my way, I'll never have to see a picture of that god awful gobshite ever again. I hate that we see Trump and Farage and these ugly motherfuckers. I hate that we see them more. We see their faces more than we do the faces of our own family. How fucked up is that? We see Trump more, his face, more than we see the face of a dear friend. That's just horrible. That is just a horrible, horrible thing. But it won't be forever, because like I say, Trump won't be around forever. And on the day that it happens, God, we're going to have a party. J.K. Rowling won't be around forever, but trans people will. So, we'll win. When's the Brighton gig? 23rd, Friday the 23rd of May. It's the bank holiday weekend. It's the second bank holiday. We just had the bank holiday weekend. We have another one. So there, Akko Day says, I say, and my Namibian prince has got no nose. How does he smell? He's going to be get back on for this. He just needs £50,000, then he can put the money in. Tommy Lee, damn Pete, the IRS is scary, man. I would rather have the FBI, CIA, and ATF all after me rather than the IRS. Indeed. Thanks for the stream, Graham. Stiff upper lip, matey. I don't think we need a stiff upper lip. I think we just need a bit more compassion and empathy in the world. I don't agree with Elon Musk where he says the biggest danger facing the world at the moment is there's too much empathy. I'm like, no, dickhead. It's the absolute opposite of that. The biggest danger in the world at the moment is the fact that there isn't enough empathy. Not that there's too much. He said there was too much. There's too much empathy, he said. There's too much empathy. No. The biggest problem we are facing right now, and it feeds into absolutely everything, is the lack of empathy. And we need to work against it. And thank you for being here. And thank you for being empathetic and for actually caring about shit that's going on in the world, in this country, in our local community, amongst our friends and neighbours and our trans friends, trans allies, our gay friends, people in the LGBT community who are suffering right now, people in other communities, minorities who are suffering, and people who are suffering around the world. We need that empathy, and we need to know that other people are feeling that empathy as well. So when Elon says the worst thing in the world is too much empathy. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for the chat. Thanks for the super chats. I'll be back at 7:30 tonight. If not, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. And until then, thanks so much for watching. Give us a like on the way out, if you would. That would be great. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.